You're listening to the Neighborhood Bulldog, where the porch light's always on and the maroon runs deep. I'm Scott Neighbors, and this is your home for real Mississippi State sports talk. Around here, we don't chase headlines. We break down the wins, the losses, the culture, and what it really means to be a Bulldog. If it matters in Starkville, it matters here. So pull up a chair, grab a drink, and welcome to the neighborhood. Hail State. Welcome into another episode of the Neighborhood Bulldog. I am your host, Scott Neighbors. I am the Neighborhood Bulldog. Thank you for joining us tonight. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And let's continue the conversation on our TikTok, our Facebook page, and more. Got a few things to talk about tonight. First things first, we had recapped Mississippi State sweeping the LSU Tigers over the weekend, and we previewed the Governor's Cup game on Tuesday night that Mississippi State would play against Ole Miss, and Mississippi State gets that win 7-3 over the Ole Miss Rebels. And then we got a little preview as Mississippi State gets ready to go on the road to Austin, Texas, in what should be a massive, massive series there. So can't wait to dive into that and see what happens the rest of this week. A huge weekend coming up. But let's dive into how Tuesday happened. Tuesday night, Mississippi State playing Ole Miss in the Governor's Cup, another chapter in that storied series over in Trustmark Park in Pearl at the old Mississippi Braves Stadium. The first thing that people got to see in this game was a horrible broadcast setup. The broadcast had the wide lens, the colorblind vision on the camera. Everybody looked 2 feet tall and 3 feet wide. It was comical. And to be a minor league team or an independent team that the Mississippi Mudcats are, I guess, that was frankly embarrassing to have a top 20 matchup at your field and to produce that level of a broadcast. Thankfully, they got it fixed about an inning and a half into the game. But there for the first inning or so, you literally could not see the plate. You're looking off the back of the left-handed batter and can barely see the pitcher. When a ball was hit, the camera couldn't find the baseball. It was embarrassing. But like I said, thankfully they fixed it and things got back to normal just in time to see Mississippi State roll over Ole Miss 7-3 in this one. So let's break down how that happened. Bottom of the first inning, Mississippi State jumps out to a 4-0 lead. That is off of a Jacob Parker single through the right side. Then we had a Bryce Chance single to second base, make it 2-0. And then Kevin Milewski doubled to right field. This was a big game for Kevin Milewski. That's a 2 RBI double there to make it 4-0. In the second, we had Jacob Parker continue his hot hitting from the weekend, getting an RBI single up the middle to score Ace Reese to make it 5-0. In the sixth inning, Ole Miss would get on the board with a double to Wright's 2 RBI double and then a Dom Decker RBI single. That made it 5-3. And then in the sixth inning, we had a sac fly from Ace Reese to make it 6-3. And then Drew Wires in the eighth with an absolutely fantastic bunt that he laid down to score a run on a throwing error there to make it 7-3. And that's ultimately where it would stay. Mississippi State had some notable performances tonight. Again, Jacob Parker had the grand slam against LSU on Saturday night on national television, a big, big hit for him, and then follows that up with a 2-hit, 2 RBI day at the plate on Tuesday. Also had Kevin Milewski. Kevin Milewski has kind of caught some flack this year. Flack may not really be the right word, but has just really caught people saying that he can't hit, essentially. He only hits home runs. It's all or nothing with him. And for the most part, they were right. At the time, he was sitting at 14 hits, and 8 of those 14 hits were home runs. So, not the case on Tuesday, though. Kevin Milewski goes 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run scored, and none of those 3 were home runs. So, big time game at the plate for him. He's seeing the ball well, using all parts of the field. It looked really good. And if he gets going hot like that, then boy, you just add another cog in the wheel that is this brutal Mississippi State lineup if you're an opposing pitcher. On the mound for Mississippi State in this game, Brendan Sweeney got the start, and I thought pitched pretty well. 3 innings, 2 hits, no runs, had 4 strikeouts and a walk. He's followed by Maddox Miller, Peyton Fowler, Chris Billingsley, Tyler Pitzer, and Dane Burns. Peyton Fowler gave up 2 runs, but had 4 strikeouts to the 1 walk. And then Dane Burns had 2 strikeouts, no walks, no hits, no runs. Really looked good on the mound there for the Bulldogs. All in all, Maddox Miller gets the win. He moves his record to 4-2 on the season. Let's see here. Owen Kelly gets the loss for Ole Miss, and then Dane Burns gets his first save of the season. That puts Mississippi State currently sitting at a 35-10 record, 13-8 in the SEC, and they are sitting in sole possession of 4th place. Georgia really looking like they are running away with the SEC at this time. Another storyline surrounding this Governor's Cup. Mississippi State continues to own, dominate, whatever you want to call it, the Ole Miss Rebels in baseball. Mike Bianco against Mississippi State has one of the worst head coaching records of any college coach out there. And the fact that it is against your arch rival, Mississippi State, has Ole Miss fans up in arms. They are not happy whatsoever, and they have every reason to be upset. Mississippi State absolutely owns Mike Bianco, and we're not talking, oh, this guy, Brian O'Connor, is just an elite coach. We're talking John Cohen, Andy Canizero, Gary Henderson, Chris Lemonis, Justin Parker, and now Brian O'Connor. You're talking about 6 different coaches that seemingly had their way with Ole Miss in baseball. John Cohen, I think, actually had an overall losing record, but toward his end as Mississippi State's head coach, he really got things going there against the Ole Miss Rebels. But it was a horrible situation that John Cohen walked into. But then you've got 5 other coaches that had no trouble whatsoever against Ole Miss. So I don't know if it's the name on the front of the jersey that bothers Mike Bianco or what, but Ole Miss fans have every right to be upset because in a rivalry, it has to be a little give and take. And there's not a whole lot of give in this rivalry. Mississippi State owns a 30-10 record over the Ole Miss Rebels in their last 40 baseball games. 30-10 over the last 40 games, and they are supposed to be your arch rival. It's a really bad time to be an Ole Miss Rebel baseball fan when it comes specifically to this rivalry. Now, make no mistake, Ole Miss has had a fantastic season up to this point, and including this being a top 20 matchup. They got swept by State in Oxford, and then they end up just going on a magnificent run that I don't think a lot of people saw coming. You had Ole Miss that swept LSU in Oxford after being swept by Mississippi State, and that really kind of catapulted them as well. So Ole Miss firmly playing into a hosting spot as well as Mississippi State is, and Mississippi State had to have this game. Ole Miss is sitting there. I think they had an 11 RPI, and Mississippi State's RPI was 15. And now I think Mississippi State moved up to 12, and Ole Miss dropped down to 13 or 14. So Mississippi State had to have this game from an RPI standpoint. We talked about on Tuesday's show how there was only one opponent left on Mississippi State's schedule that had an RPI outside of the top 11, and that is Nicholls State, that Mississippi State will play next Tuesday after going on the road to Texas. So you talk about a game you cannot afford to drop, and whether you win that game or not, that Nicholls State game is going to hurt RPI more so than it will help. Um, just saying, maybe it rains that day, especially if we don't grab a win on the road at Texas. I bet we have a rain out on that Tuesday night, whether it rains or not, if you know what I'm saying. So I think you'll see a lot of that happening across the country, and it usually starts about this week in the season. So, but overall, Ole Miss is having a great season. Yes, Mississippi State swept the season again versus Ole Miss. And I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember a season where Mississippi State swept Ole Miss on the season and swept LSU on the season. So great job by the Bulldogs and Brian O'Connor. Brian O'Connor, in his first ever season in the SEC, already 4-0 against Mike Bianco and the Ole Miss Rebels. So not a bad start there against your so-called rival if you are Brian O'Connor. Now, Mississippi State turns its attention to a extremely important road series in Austin, Texas. Austin, Texas, Dish Falk Field, the legendary Augie Garrido coaching there. Texas has been very good in baseball for a long time, led by Jim Schlossnagle. We know what he can do. Texas is currently sitting above Mississippi State and third place for the SEC, 33-9 overall, 13-7 in conference play. And again, they are getting the job done. Now, Texas is a very good baseball team. Very good. Always have been, likely will continue to be under Jim Schlossnagle. However, Texas has had some tough losses this season. They lost in 11 innings to Ole Miss in one game. They lost at home to Tarleton State 6-1, and Tarleton State just gave Texas A&M a scare last night as we sit here today. Auburn grabbed that Friday night win versus Texas, and then Texas loses against Houston 9-7, another bad loss there. And then you lose one against South Carolina. I believe that was right after Paul Maneri got fired. And then you lose both games to Texas A&M. The third game ended up being canceled. So you don't know if that would have been a sweep by Texas A&M or not. It looked likely. And then you lose one to Alabama at home. And then you lose one to Vandy in that series. And last night, it took a walk-off home run to beat Sam Houston State 15-14 at home. A crazy game where Sam Houston just kept taking the lead until right there at the end. Texas got the huge home run there to walk it off and win that game. That would have been a very bad loss for Texas at that point. So some key players for Texas, you're looking at a lineup that's going to have, looks like Aiden Robbins going to be the leadoff batter. Carson Tenney, the talented catcher, there in the second spot. Anthony Pack Jr. batting third. Adrian Rodriguez, the shortstop. Really got to have him going if you're Texas. Ethan Mendoza, second base. Timo Becerra, another great player, third baseman for Texas. Ashton Larson, Casey Borba, splitting time with Josh Livingston at first base there. So looking like, for the most part, the lineup is pretty much set. And of those players, you've got Anthony Pack Jr., a freshman left fielder, leading the team in batting average with a 362 average right now, slugging 564. He's got 54 hits, 15 doubles, 5 home runs, but 37 RBIs. And a number that stands out to me as a freshman He's 30 walks to 25 Ks at the plate. That tells me that he really, really sees the ball well. You got Aiden Robbins batting 357. He's the center fielder. He's got 18 home runs and 46 RBIs on the season, but 41 Ks to 23 strikeouts. And then Carson Tenney, the catcher, just absolutely dominant, batting 338 right now as the junior catcher, 16 home runs, 39 RBIs, and 46 strikeouts to 36 walks. So, again, another guy that is patient, sees the ball well, really does a good job at the plate there. And then we know Ethan Mendoza as well, the second baseman, the junior second baseman, has 8 home runs with 39 RBIs, 25 walks to 28 Ks. So a talented Texas lineup, a very talented Texas lineup. And with this game being in Austin, I mean, I don't really know how it's going to play out. Common sense would say Austin's a tough place to play. I worry about the turf at Texas's field. I think Texas's field, no offense to Texas, I think it's ugly. I think they would look so much better with a natural field there. I am glad Mississippi State got to play on some awful turf in Trustmark Park in Pearl Tuesday night, because they're going to be doing the same thing all weekend in Austin, Texas. So glad they got a little bit, got their feet wet a little bit there before heading to Texas. But like we said on Tuesday, this series is one where if you're Mississippi State, you have to grab at least one game. You cannot afford a sweep from anybody at this point in the season. You've got Sunday's game, you got Friday night, you got Saturday at 2:30, and then on Sunday, you are the game on ESPN at 1 p.m. On Sunday. They're a big-time national matchup there with number 4 Texas. You gotta steal a game. You cannot get swept. If you can win the series, that's even better. I think Mississippi State's playing good ball right now. You come home to face Nichols. We'll see if that game gets played. And then you host Auburn on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series, and that's a series you have to win or sweep here at home. And then you go to College Station. That is going to be absolutely tough on the Bulldogs there. But like we said, if you can grab one win at Texas, win the series at Auburn, or hosting Auburn, and then grab one win on the road at Texas A&M, I think you are solidified in your not only postseason, I think you're solidified as a host. And at that point, you are probably still on the bubble of being a national seed. If you can sweep Auburn and maybe grab one of the series against Texas or Texas A&M, at that point, you would have a national seed locked up. So a lot to play for, a lot going on right now as the season gets winded down here, and we will see what happens. We will be back with you next week to recap what hopefully is a great weekend from Austin, Texas, and get you prepared for an early weekend series against Auburn next week. Like I said before, thank you for joining the neighborhood. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. You can find us on TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, anywhere in podcast form. And we love interacting. Comment. Let's talk. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll be back with you next week. As always, Hail State.